The first thing that we are going to do when we get into our portal, and it sounded like at the break you were all, let me resume my session. You were all logged into the portal. For those of you who maybe don't have access to what we're going to do today, I can help you manage some users and get some access here. Unless somebody in the room wants to be my living example, I'm going to do an application on behalf of Richland County. So I'm logged in here as the school district. I'm on the landing page. If your page looks something like this and has news and information on it, and your page does not match mine, I'm going to go a little closer. There, make it a little bigger. So if your page does not look like mine, please click on a logo, and a logo will take you back to the main landing page. So from the main landing page, the options for filling out forms are over here on the right-hand side. You'll see various forms there. Really, the only two that are not there that you might want are 498 form, which is your banking information, and a 472, which is the requesting of money and invoicing form. So almost every other form that you need is now in the system. If you scroll down, you will see all of the entities in your district. The first thing to do is make sure that you have a district entity, and that even if you're a single school district, you have a building with students in it underneath. So if you don't, let's fix that before you leave today. So that's the one thing to remember. I'm just going to go through it quickly and show you how. If you click on any one of these individual buildings, in a perfect world, there would be a button that says Edit, and you would know that you were editing this page. This is not a perfect world. This is the Epic platform. So you are going to click Manage Organization, and you now have editing rights on that page. Sometime before you leave today, I want you to scroll down and update your number of students from the paperwork that you brought with you. This is not a requirement for the 470 form. This is something that we do for our 471, but USAC started locking everyone out last year during the 471 process. So you're going to put your full-time students here for that building, and then your total number of students eligible for free and reduced lunch here. If you have some of those part-time students that we talked about from special ed or pre-K or one of those other programs, you're going to total them up and put them both in the peak number of part-time and the total number of part-time students. There is a difference, but my experience is in most of our cases, they're the same number will validate. So this is where you're going to update your numbers for each building. Please do this and have this done before the 471 window opens. Again, I don't know when it is, but my assumption is as soon as that 471 window opens and they say, February 1st, that's opening, that's the day they're going to lock you out. So that's why we're doing it now in the 470 and showing you where it is, okay? Yes?
We're a CEP school.
Good question.
Would we still leave the same numbers in there since we're in the middle of that?
If you are a CBP school, there is a button for you.
Right, and then, I've got the information from
You click CEP, and then you put your information over on the side. It is probably the same. Okay. Your CEP information is probably the same. And the paperwork that ISB comes out with that summer school eligibility, whatever the name of it was, form, will match the current CEP totals. So even if you're filing a form, this spring and April, it will match what you currently have on file. If that is a big problem for you and you feel like you have a discrepancy in student totals from that CEP amount, because I have met a couple, let me know and we will get you on Jamie's radar so that we can work that out. But yeah, you're going to mark that CEP, and then over here on the side, I think it has you list your numbers and the number directly certified or the percentage or something.
On mine, it says CEP percentage 100%, but regarding student numbers, there's 0.
Okay, so
it's never been filled in.
It's possible that we just made it up in the past, but we do want to get our hands on a CEP form and validate it. It's totally possible that 100% of the students that are in your alternative ed program are also eligible for free and reduced lunch. That's absolutely a possibility in your program, but let's just make sure that we have paperwork to back that up.
Well, you want me, I can put a number in.
Just leave it for now, and then we'll get that paperwork and validate it. Yes?
Where did you say what report we should get the numbers?
So it is called the Fall Student Demographics Report. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody know the name of that report? It used to be called the Fall Housing Report. It's a report that you can get from your iWAS login from SIS. And I think it's called the Student Demographics Report. And it was probably October 1st. So if you're just choosing that report and saying October 1st, that should give you the fall housing. The deadline for updating your student numbers for the fall was October 1st. And so that report is the one that will be generated in the spreadsheet. And it will list for you in acronyms because that's how we do things in education. FRL, which stands for free and reduced lunch. That's where you'll find your poverty total.
How did you get here again?
So, good question. So from my landing page, I clicked on the school building, and then I clicked on Manage Organization in order to edit. And when I am done, and if I am to update anything on this page, student totals, address, whatever, when I'm done and I click Submit, it will ask me to do a modification name. That's normal. Don't get worried if you feel like it's an error. Just say no changes. In this case, I didn't change anything. But you can say updated student totals or something like that. And that is just a record place in their program to know that that was changed and to have record of it in case you have a question. Any questions about updating your student numbers? And we can do that, like I said, up until that 471 window opens. I just wanted you to get it in now because last year we got locked down before the 471. And then we had really big issues of trying to update those numbers when they weren't right, and you had to put it in the narrative, and then somebody from PIA review had to call and ask for verification, and it just gave another point of question in PIA that we don't need to deal with. So that's where we're going to do that. So then the next thing we're going to do today is we're going to go on up here to the Form 470. And so as soon as I click on Form 470 in the upper right, it's going to open up a 470 for me. Just making sure that everybody is with me before we go because I don't want you to get lost, and I know several of you are updating student totals. Form 470. Now, if you are in the middle of a contract for your internet access, if that contract does not end on June 30th of 2018 and it ends next year, you are not required to file a 470. I feel like sometimes it's a good idea because then you can get an idea if you could get better pricing and you might be able to negotiate something. But if you don't want to file a 470 and you stick with your existing contract that lasts you through next year, when we file the 471, we're going to claim the 470 from the year before. The one thing that I want you to note on that original 470 is if you feel like there is any chance whatsoever that you might need to upgrade your bandwidth on your current contract, it must be stated in the 470 to have that range. And so when we get here into the 470 to fill it out, I'll point out where to look on your old form to make sure that you're covered. So this very front page says application nickname. You may call it whatever you want. Richland County, I'm naming mine practice so I know to delete it. FY, I always say the whole year. FY18 is the application, but I always say 18-19 because USAC starts their year names with the beginning of the year and ISB starts their year names with the end of the year, so it's confusing. So I always put the range of 18-19 so we know which school year we're talking about. And if you feel the need to do two separate 470s, one for Category 1 and one for Category 2, you can do that. You may put them all on one. My example will be all on one. But if you want to do separate ones, that's fine. If you are looking for a new service and you want to do a 470 for current service and a 470 for new fiber, you may name it that. You can name it whatever you want. I know an applicant who put E-rate sucks in their title so that every time they called USAC that they could talk to USAC and say, I'm looking at your E-rate sucks form. You may do whatever you want. It is your name. I have a feeling that they will not refer to it as that if that's what you put in your title. But, hey, it's an attempt. It was entertaining in the application process. So it is now going to confirm your application type of service. The district is the whole district. It will give you the number of eligible entities. In this case, we have 3 school buildings, a bus barn, and a district office, so that it is 5 entities, so that is correct. you may not have your district office and your bus barn broken out. That's not a requirement. Some schools do, some schools don't, especially if your district office sits in the same building as one of your buildings, it may not be there. It will tell you if you have indicated in your records on that back page where we just changed it that you have your pre-K included or not. Again, that is a district choice. Some school districts include pre-K in their free and reduced totals for this. Some school districts do not. If you see anything wrong on this page, we'll make note. I am clicking Save and Continue. I am not clicking Save and Share, because Save and Share will save it to some other entity in your district that has access to this form. And then that means you will save and share it to your superintendent, and you will have to go explain to your superintendent how to log into the system to save and share it back to you. So do not click Save and Share. Click Save and Continue. Or it may end up at your bookkeeper, because they're sometimes in the form too. Over here, it's going to say consultant information. If you use an E-rate consultant or you are an E-rate consultant, it should show up here. It will ask if you are the main contact for the district. Another disclaimer. You are the main contact for your district. There is a point where it will ask for a technical contact. That may be the person that does the boxes and wires in the corner of the building that you never let leave the building or that closet. You may list that person as your technical contact if you want, but if you're in this room, you are probably the main contact person. Never, ever, under any circumstances, if you are a school district that uses a consultant, local consultant, who is your IT person for 2 days a week or whatever under a contract, never ever list that consultant as your main contact or your technical person. Your local network consultant people are not the people who you list on this form. If you do, and they are also an E-rate provider for equipment like routers and switches, it will be a red flag and you will lose all your money, and I have seen it happen. So don't do that. You are the contact person. Even if you then have to call someone else and say, wait, what's a router? You are the main contact person. Anybody confused about that? Okay.
What if you had a consultant and now you don't?
If you had a consultant, is it still showing up as you have a consultant? There is a way to take that out, and we'll do that at the end of the day so that you can remove it. There are a couple of districts who had consultants, and it's kind of a transitionary year, and there's still some money exchanging hands. So don't remove that person until you're ready to, AKA let's make sure we have all your money for last year first. Save and continue again. It will say now, do you want category 1 or category 2? These are both on or off buttons. I am selecting both for our application. If you are in a contract, in the middle of a fiber contract here in category 1, and you don't want to list category 1, just say category 2. I'll show you the difference on the next page. And it's saying, is there an RFP? Please keep in mind, we talked a lot about RFPs for the builds, and those are legit RFP-looking documents. But if you are wanting to rewire a grade school and you want to put up a map of that grade school to show where you want the drops, if there's any other additional information that you could provide and not answer 150 questions, this would be the place to put it. So it does not have to be an official RFP by legal standards. It can simply be more information, AKA the map of your building here. And you would say yes, and then it asks you to attach it, and you upload a document. I would suggest PDF just to ensure that everyone can read it. But that's how you would do it. If you had an RFP, you would say yes, and then it would say upload. If you don't, you would say no. For most of us who are just getting service that we've already gotten, the answer is no. We don't have an RFP for extra information. We're just going through. We're using this as our RFP. Again, save and continue. Now this is the page where we will add what kind of services we are looking for. Note, there is a category 1 section, add a new service and a narrative. Then there's a category 2 section, add a new service and a narrative. The narrative is shared by everything in that category. So it's not like I say internet access and then I have a narrative. That would be really nice to have one for each one, but that's not the way that it's written. If you have the restriction that you would like to see bids by a certain date, or you were using the scenario that Joe said and say all questions need to be answered by December 23rd, you would put those notes here in this. You may also say, I will not accept bids after a certain date, which even if you're not ready to file your 471 means I'm making my decision on January 10th. Do not give me any more bids after January 10th. I am making my decision on that day, which will save you some frustration and time and energy of saying to people, I already made a decision. I already made a decision to the people who send it to you late. So if you have a requirement like that, you're going to put it in the narrative. When we click Add New Service Request, you would get all of the wonderful USAC's legal information to explain to you what all your options are that we covered this morning. And you're going to select what you're choosing. So in this case, for this particular school district, I am in a fiber contract for all of the student buildings right now. I am going to choose least lit fiber because I am currently in that fiber contract. It is ending June 30th of this year, and I want to sign a new one with the company that's giving me least lit fiber. In its case, it is not a bundled service. So I am not paying MediaCom for the internet access and the connectivity, or the transport and the connectivity. I am just paying them for the transport back to Illinois Century Network. So in this case, I'm choosing least lit fiber. I am saying one quantity because it is one line into my high school, but it is serving all 5 entities because I have a network built also that is my WAN that covers to all my buildings from my high school. Okay, so one quantity, but 5 entities served. And here in the minimum and maximum, I would suggest that you choose a minimum of what you currently have and a maximum of at least a gig, if not more. And in this case, I'm going to go up to 10 gig. And let me explain to you why. You may have no business or any interest in using a gig of fiber in your building. I am totally aware that you may have usage charts that show that you are nowhere near a gig of fiber access. However, there is a significant price break from when you get to a gig. And I want you to know what it's going to cost you to get to a gig, even if you're not using it. Because you may take a look at this and think that you are at 500 megabits, but for $30 more, you can have a gig. Why not? So I want you to be able to see that significant price break and make the best decision in your 471. No, go ahead. Questions are good.
What's transport bundled again?
Okay, so if you're choosing internet access and transport bundled, that is your traditional services, whether that be a wireless point-to-point, whether that be a copper line like a Metro E line from Frontier is traditionally in our area copper. They do some fiber. Metro E's. Very few. Frontier is basically copper in Illinois.
So they changed the definitions.
So if you, and I know last year, if you're looking at last year's form and to use as a guide, last year you said transport bundled because that was the best choice for last year. This year with the new definitions, your best choice is fiber. I don't know how a better way of saying that.
You said it perfectly.
Okay. So, yes, so pick fiber, and if that's what you currently have. So I guess what do you have right now? You have a Metro E copper line. You're going to put one line for fiber because I want to see if we can get you fiber. And then you're going to put another line. I'll do another example in a second of a second line. A second line that is the bundled transport because that's what you currently have. So we want to make sure we cover what you currently have. If nobody will absolutely ever come to you for fiber, please, before nobody comes to you, let us know and we'll harass people to come to you, okay? That's part of the Illinois Connectivity Project. I guess I should say we will encourage providers to come to you, not harass them. So we will encourage them to come to you, so please do put fiber, but also list your old connection. It also says, are you seeking installation and activation? In this case, I already have it, and I have a philosophy that my partners at Education of Superhighway can argue with me about it. I like to say yes, I'm seeking it, because if I say no, that locks me into my current provider, and my current provider looks at it and says, oh, they didn't have installation, so they must just want to stick with me, and they get confident, and they maybe don't give you as good of a price as if they think that somebody else could come in and compete with them. So I say yes to leave that door open to new providers who might be interested in building to you, if nothing else, to encourage your current provider to be competitive with their pricing. I also always say yes to the maintenance and technical support because though I have yet to see that on a bill, at some point it could show up on a bill and I want it to be eligible. when it does show up on that bill. So, and I'm going to say add, and when I do, I will see down here in my narrative, I need to note least lit fiber is a transport only option. Now, if you are paying Mediacom, Comcast, Clearwave, one of our various other providers for internet access and your transport, you would say lease let fiber is a bundled option. So if you know that you are currently paying somebody for your internet, you have no bill from ICN, you would say lease lit fiber is a bundled option. That will tell anybody providing that you're looking for a bundled option, you're not going back to ICN. In her case, she does go back to ICN, so I have lease let fiber is a transport option. I'm adding a new service request, and this time I need that ICN bill covered, that ISP bill covered. So I am going to say internet access ISP service only, because that is Illinois Century Network only offers you the ISP. Again, the minimum is what I have. The maximum is what I chose on the other one, which I think was 10 gig. Same number of entities served, and you aren't really needing installation on this one because it's just ISP service.
They won't reimburse installation on ISP.
Right, so you don't have to list it.
So we should,
But the boxes are still there.
so if we're doing Metro, we should,
If I had Metro E, let's pretend, because this is an example I'm going to delete. So if I was doing a Metro E service, say to one of the buildings that isn't in my circuit, I would do a new funding service request, and I would say I currently have internet access and transport bundled, one for one entity, and I would say no to the installation, same kind of thing. They're not going to be able to give you 10 gig on a Metro E line, but just for consistency. And I would say transport, what did we call it? Let's make sure we use the right language. Internet access I don't even know if I have to make a note, but for Richland Elementary School. You want to be very careful not to say internet access and transport bundled is for my current service, because that looks like you're not being open to new providers. You're just choosing your current. So you would say internet access and transport bundled is requested as a connection option for Richland Elementary School, which should tell the providers, this is my current connection to Richland Elementary School, but I have said lease lit fiber is transport only option. I would like to have fiber at that building. Right now, nobody's bid on it, so I want to cover my current option. And there doesn't really need to be a comment for ISP service, because really the only ISP service provider that you really have in our state is ICN. If you get another bid, let me know, because I'll add that to my list. But ICN, if they see that you have applied and that you have not put that, I've heard they are sending emails out saying, if you would like ICN to reply to your bid, you will need to include ISP as a service only. So if you have been in their market before, even if you're not using them now, you may get that email from them as a result of your 470 today. So that if you do not bid it, they will send you a reminder that you might want to consider them. Also, Illinois Century Network started doing multi-year contracts. So if you're signing a multi-year contract for your transport, if you just let them know that you want a multi-year contract for your internet access that ends the same time, you don't have to do it every year, which would save you from filing a 470 next year, because you're going to cite this one from this year. Same thing for those of you who are 90% or greater. You could choose voice service and then you could list out your phone lines and the amount of phone lines, etc. It also then says, are you seeking installation and maintenance? So this is a standard form, so you would just say no on those. Well, I would say yes on maintenance and technical support because that could be a line on your line. And I'll cancel that one. If you find that you've put something in here that you no longer want here, you check the box in front, and then you can remove the service request, or you can go back and edit it. You only can check one box at a time, so you would check that, and then you could click remove. Any other questions or comments about the narrative section? Have you chosen something and you want to know what to say in the narrative? You may not at any time say, I currently have service from so-and-so, but I'm bidding on another option. If you say that, you will be denied. That is a competitive bidding error, and you have stated a preference for a particular provider. You may not do that. You can just simply say what you want. If you have clicked anywhere that says installation, this new box appears where it says, are you interested in an installment plan? In a world where there was a $20,000 bid to get to your grade school, and the state funding didn't come through, and you were out of luck, but you had that $20,000 bid to pay for, and your cost of it is $5,000. If you've checked this box, and you have said, I want to pay it over 4 years and monthly, you may still be able to get your bid to support that build on a monthly cost. So you would take that $5,000 of your build or whatever, and you would break your portion over 4 years of time. Why are there 2 number boxes here? I don't know. Put the same number in both. Okay? So if you are doing any kind of a build, or you think there might be a build in your future, you can put this on here. If you choose to pay it all up front, you get the state funding and you have no cost, it doesn't matter. If you choose that you don't get the state funding and you're still going through with it and you have enough money because somebody donated $5,000 to the school district to get you what you wanted, you can pay it all up front. You don't have to use the option, but if you don't choose it, you no longer have the option. Yes?
Mindy, it's another good way as well, choosing the installment payment option is another good way to indicate to your current provider, particularly if you're non-fiber, that you're open to fiber-based bids.
So that's something that sends another note to them when they're looking through the applications to say, hey, this is somebody who needs fiber. We don't have fiber at a building and we want it. So in this example, we were using it for the grade school. Now, down in our category 2 options, you now get all of your stuff. Please note, internal connections is the stuff. Maintenance of internal connections is maintenance on the stuff. It is very, very easy to accidentally click the wrong one. So if you are in internal connections, you will see all of my wonderful options here for antennas and cabling and firewalls, etc. Please note, if I'm in basic maintenance of internal connections, I have all of the same options. So we have several applications this year who accidentally clicked the wrong one on the 471 and thought that they were getting internal connections of a firewall, and what they really got was basic maintenance of a firewall that they don't have because they checked the wrong button. So please be sure which button you're checking. Also, if you are checking basic maintenance, I know that this is a pain for you. I can't fix it for you. If you know you have a provider who's coming in to do basic maintenance of your cabling and your router and your switches, you have to apply for it 3 times. I'm sorry. Otherwise, USAC could come back to you and say, I'm not covering the maintenance on your switch because you only claimed maintenance on router. So you're going to have 3 lines in there to cover all of your needs or whatever you think might be in your basic maintenance. So for the example, I'm going to do internal connections. We want switches. And you may choose what you prefer as your manufacturer. So in her case, I prefer Ruckus. All right, that's what I currently have. I'm interested in Ruckus. I can prefer Ruckus. That does not mean Sam's Great Computing Sources is not going to bid on your bid, because they feel like theirs is just as good as Ruckus. And they'll probably give you a paragraph that explains why. okay? So it does not mean you won't get other bids. It does mean if somebody like CDWG is going to reply to your bid, that they know what you want instead of them guessing at what you want. So, and then it'll say, are you seeking installation and activation? If you are the bookkeeper who does not have a tech director to put in this box for you, say yes, because then somebody can be paid to put it in for you. If you are the tech director and you say, hey, that's my job security, that's what I do, is put in switches, then say no. It is a switch. The quantity is 4, and I'm giving this as an example because I want to say in my narrative, switches should be 24 port managed. I could have said 2 switchers are 24 port and 2 switchers are 12. So I can break that out however I want. You may not say, I want a Ruckus 2500 series switch. You can't be that specific. Somebody asked me yesterday, if I want a rack and I know that I want a such and such enclosed rack, I can't just say I want that rack, and I said no, but you can say you want a 3-foot by 7-foot enclosed rack with 4 shelves. Very specific. You've said what kind of brand you want. Now you've listed the detail that you want to help them determine what switch you want or what rack you want. So you can be as detailed as you want in this section, but you may not list brands and part numbers.
Do you break that out by building in there, or is that?
I've seen it done both ways. So some people will take it and they'll say like elementary school and they'll list the numbers that they want, and then middle school, because really your budgets are done on a building by building basis. Other people just do the math in their head and say I have 4 buildings and I need a new switch in each of those labs, and they just put down 4 switches. So that's to help you, not so much the provider. There has been a big conversation about the need for maybe that money to be figured on a district basis instead of a building basis. Let me explain to you why that is. There are some districts, large districts in our nation, who have funneled all of their money towards their spotlight schools or their magnet schools or something like that. And USAC is trying to curb that action. And the small individual community school who isn't getting any money for network because it's all going to the fancy school, they are doing it building by building basis so that it forces those districts to put that wiring upgrades in those buildings that are being forgotten. So that's the checks and balances. It's annoying to all of us who do everything else on a district basis, but that's the rationale for it. Does anybody else need to see any more examples in category 2? Again, if I wanted basic maintenance, I would have to break out the basic maintenance for each section. If I wanted the managed internal broadband services, and we do have a state contract for that, I'll take you to that page in a second. If you're interested in that, you can say, yes, I want that, and I either want it on my existing equipment or my leased equipment. So in most cases, it is leased equipment, and it's a package deal, and it's per student, and it conveniently equals $30 a student, which is your whole budget for category 2 for 5 years. So, I mean, in most cases, it eats up all of your money, but you don't have to buy anything, and somebody else is handling it for you. So that is an option. Nobody's asking any questions. Again, if you have wireless access points, you can list wireless access points in the preferred kind. Some of our wireless access points that school districts are using, like ubiquitous access points, do not have a separate wireless controller. However, it was pointed out to me that they now do have a for sale wireless controller for ubiquitous, if you're interested. Some of them are web-based and there's not an extra cost for that. Some of them there is a separate, so if you were getting, somebody help me with a brand name. Ruckus probably has a separate wireless controller. So Ruckus would have wireless access points, and then you would also need to bid for the wireless access controller to control those wireless access points. So there's 2 pieces to that enterprise network. There are also pieces that are the CALs or the licenses for those devices each year, and you can put that under wireless controller, I think. There's not like it spells it out in the 471, but there's not a specific category for it here. Okay, you're all very quiet. Oh, one of the conversations we had earlier this last week too, if you were doing cabling it will ask you for the amount of feet of cabling. So that's like a cabling project. If you want to replace all the patch cables that are in your server room, that is considered a connector. And then you will say, I want 24 3-foot patch cables or whatever you're looking for. So the cabling options only give you the whole, I want X number of feet of cable. So it is actually, the unit is feet. So that's the choice. If you want to be as detailed as you possibly want, there is a school district who has a rainbow closet where everything that goes into his switch for blue is regular connections, and green is the cameras, and red is the phone system, voice over IP. And he has a rainbow closet, and he knows exactly what's down where, why the little flashy lights, and what color cable's plugged into it, including he rewired in every single connection box, has colors for what kind of data source it is. If you want to be that detailed, you have every right to be. It took him 4 hours to fill out his 471 with all of the detail that he wanted for his purple and his green and his red and his blue. But when he wins the lottery and leaves the district, whoever takes his place is going to love him. As opposed to having my office where everything is all gray and you have no idea what's connected to what, and nobody even left me a map. So, or the tech director I know that walked in and they said, in an interview, do you know what that is on the whiteboard? And she said, well, it looks like a network map. And they said, oh, good, we've been trying to figure out what that is. And that was the only copy of the network map, was what was on the whiteboard. So you may enter in all of your various requests and your details. When you are done with that, you are going to say save and continue. And now again, who is your technical contact person? You. Or the person that you sit in the closet and don't let out of the building. Okay? If you are not the technical contact person, you say yes and it looks, and you can enter in your details manually. If your boxes and wires person is not in the system, you can just list it here. That's not giving them rights to the system. That's just simply saying this is the person you're going to call when you want to know what kind of switch I want or whatever. Otherwise, you're going to say, no, there is not another person. I am the technical contact person, and you're going to click save and continue. To the best of my knowledge, specifically for this recording today, I am unaware of any state or local procurement requirements. Anything that says 28 days is not long enough and you must wait 120. I have no idea if Chicago Public Schools has separate legal requirements. They might at CPS. But to the best of my knowledge, none of you have any other requirements. Some people feel more comfortable saying, yes, there are local requirements, and I will follow any local laws as necessary, or whatever. If you want a little disclaimer there, just to save you, if you know that your school exists in a town that's full of politics, you may want that disclaimer. If you don't, you can just say, no, I am not aware of any other rules or requirements. And when I click Review Form 470, it will continuously cycle around for infinity. It will never, ever stop. You must click refresh to get to see if something is there. And so once you click refresh, it may still be thinking. It is better, however, than the 471 that totally kicks you out of the system altogether and makes you think that you've lost all your work, and you don't. It just takes you back to the landing page. So if I continuously click refresh, it eventually will give me a PDF. When I click on the PDF and download it, it is a really simple, succinct form, especially if I don't have a consultant or anything. It looks very, very simple. It gives me the 2 charts that I just put in and says, yes, these are the services that I want. So it's a very simple 2-page document. If you have a whole bunch more services, you might get up to 3 pages. This is the page that you should print out and put in your binder. Yes, even though we are all online, you should at least have a virtual binder, if not a physical binder or folder that goes in a cabinet. You are certifying on the next page that you are going to follow all of the rules. Included in those rules is that you will keep everything for 10 years. So, it is not good enough to say to USAC, well, I did that on Epic and it's your portal and you should know that it's there and you can get your own stuff. Like, that's not going to fly. You must have your printed out copy that you keep for yourself. Even though you're all smiling at me like I'm totally not printing that out, I'm just gonna, virtual would be okay. Put it in a Google Drive, all right? Make me feel better and tell me that you're doing that. Once you have it the way that you want it, you will click this box that says, by checking this box, I certify, and you will continue to certification. If you don't have authority in the system to certify it, and you have to send it to a superintendent, you won't see that button. You'll just see send for certification. Send for certification will send it to your superintendent, and now you will have to pick up the phone and say, hey, I need you to go in and certify this form. There are no trick boxes on the next page. You will check everything. It says things like, I am not, haven't committed a crime, and I am a school district, and I know if a group of students in my school all win the lottery together tomorrow from the parents, then my poverty rating will change, all of those wonderful things. It doesn't say that specifically. It's all very nice USAC legalese. But there are no trick things or boxes to not check like we see on some of our other forms. In this case, I am going to click back because this is not a district that I want to use. And just for humor's sake, I want to show you this is Google-esque, meaning everything that you do is saved. So if you attempt to work on a form today and you do not certify it today, it will remain in tasks. If you did a practice form with us today and you do not discard your form, it will remain in tasks. If you do a practice form today and then you do your real form tomorrow and you don't delete your practice form, the system will send you a reminder when it gets close to the deadline, and it will say to you, you have a form that has not been submitted, and remind you, and then for a minute you will freak out because you forgot that it was a practice form and you'll think that you did not submit it. So please, if you have some sort of a practice form, remember to click on that and then click discard form. It says, are you sure? And you will say yes. That goes to state for any other erroneous forms that you see here. So I have seen my tasks list with like 15 little things here. The system will continue to think you are a form in progress if it is still existing there. So you simply just click on it and find discard form, and you can get that out of your list. When you change your tasks up here will change as well. So this now says 3 tasks. It should say 2 because I only have 2 there. When I refresh it, it should change it. Let's see if it fixes it. 2 tasks. If you are new and you want to know what you filed for last year, or you are concerned about whether or not your 470 from the creation year of your contract covers your bandwidth needs, you can click Form 470 or any of the various forms, and then the funding year, let's pretend that that was 2016, and you may look at the 470 from that year. So you're going to click on the link of the nickname, and then down at the bottom, the 470 is pretty good. The 471 gives you a PDF to click at the bottom. So again, if I wanted to look at last year's 471, I could click 471 2017, and then when I click on the 471 for category 1 for her, at the bottom of this information there's an original version link, and you can click on that and you can see the original version and what you turned in. It does generate a PDF for you, and we'll show you what you applied for the year before. Are there any questions or comments about the portal, the forms, the Form 470, the updating of your student numbers? The only other thing really to update is kind of in a tricky spot. If you click on the district name and then related actions, you can manage your connectivity questions. And it is just self-reported. Let me find it. Manage connectivity questions will allow you then to verify your download speed and your upload speed are correct. And on the next page, it actually, if you aggregate your connectivity, which means your whole district shares one connection that comes into one point, you aggregate and share that, it will have you break down how much bandwidth is going to each individual building within your network. So last year when they locked us out, we could not update connectivity and we could not update student counts, and that posed a problem for us. So please do that before you get to the 471, is update those 2 forms. And I will probably be sending out notices when I hear when the window is open that A, we are currently scheduling workshops and getting workshops ready and they're coming. And B, go in and fix your stuff now before they close it down on that day, because I expect there to be the dual announcement at the same time. So we did go ahead and look at the Category 2 budget tool. We also updated our connectivity information, and we filed the 470. You are welcome to watch the recording we're making today to follow again. I believe that E-rate is a team activity, so part of the point of the purpose of having these sessions statewide is because I think that there is some validation to sitting in a room that is outside of your school district so you have dedicated time for E-rate. In addition, I think there is a valid conversations that go on in the group to say, oh, I applied for this. Oh, I never thought about applying for that. What category did you put that under? And those kind of conversations that happen in E-rate. So I'm an advocate of face-to-face meetings. However, I know that's not an option for everyone. So we will be recording today and putting it on the Ed Leaders Network, which is our platform for IPA. And so we will put this on the Ed Leaders Network for you to follow up with later. We'll do the same at our 471 so that we have an online option. But I am a huge advocate for face-to-face when it comes to E-rate for those reasons. So in addition, if you want a copy of today's presentation, there is a Google shortcut here. So it is little v, big, or little v8, big D, big F, little O, and big M. You can find me at mfiscus@ltcillinois.org. When we have our scheduling for the 471s, it will populate to our calendar on the LTC page, and you will be able to click. Now, several of our partners do registration for us, so if you choose another entity, say you want to go to Peoria next time for some reason, you may be taken outside of the site to their registration system, so some of our hosts are handling that for us. But you will find all of the dates there, and you will probably get them in notices from your local regional office of education as well, and the other listservs. And so then to wrap up our day, for those of you who are wanting to know how to go ahead and access your current information on Compare and Connect K-12, I'm going to start up that demo video so that you can see how to use that tool. And we have a local expert, so if you get lost or you find your information is incorrect and you want to fix that, we can talk to Hannah, and Hannah can help you navigate which things to click to update your information if you find it to be incorrect. So before I start the video, are there any other questions or comments or things that you need from me today? Yes.
I don't know if this applies to now, but we're not really happy with Metro E. We're not happy with Frontier. And
You're not happy with your Metro E-line and you would like fiber?
no.
You're just not happy with your
We're just
Metro
not
E-line?
happy, and we're going to switch to another service. We don't know which one yet.
Right. So then you're in the perfect position. If you are not happy with your current connection and you would like to switch, by putting out a 470 today and submitting it and putting it online, that tells all of the providers in the area, I would like to have service. And so that's the perfect bidding process for you to see what your options are.
But in that comment box, can I?
You may not say in the comment box, I don't like Frontier. No, you may not say that. That was a great question, though, because, yeah, you can name your program E-rate sucks, but you cannot say, I don't like Frontier. No, they will probably turn in a bid for continued service for you. You have a bidding matrix that you will put together, and I will send out emails to everyone before the 471 that shows what a bidding matrix looks like, and we'll talk about more of it that day. You have to give the highest number of points. Look at it like a rubric for school. You have to give the highest number of points to the cost effectiveness. So even though that might be cheapest, to meet your real needs for growth and expansion, that one could have 30 points, and growth and expansion may have 25, and positive reputation of vendor might have 25. So you can work your bidding matrix to meet your needs. You do have to have cost as the highest number of points, however. So if you're struggling with that and you put a matrix together and you want me to look at it, feel free to email it to me. Frequently I say, and most of the time it is, yep, this looks great. But I'm happy to look at your matrix and reply back and let you know if there's something that I see that's going to cause a problem.
Okay.
Bandwidth upgrade would be good too.
Yeah. Increased needs for bandwidth.
Look at your number of students, look at the CETA standards, the FCC standards, and bid that bandwidth.
Right, that would be a
Frontier
great thing on your
usually-
matrix.
Frontier usually runs the other way.
Yes. So the disadvantage to having some of those transport options like those copper-based connections is that you can only upgrade to a certain point. So that you can't get more than that. You have to put in a second line to get more. And sometimes there's a very valid reason for that. So we have a school district in our state that is that could not bury in the ground because they sit in the national forest. And so they had wires run. And for a really long time, there were no fiber providers. So there was a point where they had 6 T3 lines run over wires getting to the building because you couldn't dig in the ground. And then now they have fiber that is run over our phone lines, but still, phone line poles, I guess I should say. But until we had the fiber, that's the case. You just max out that bandwidth and then you put another one in. Hopefully, we will see a response that will allow you a fiber expanding option. Any other questions or comments? Thank you for driving to Springfield today. Thank you to IPA for hosting us, and thank you to our friends for joining us.